All right, so welcome back to another video in Graham's networking lessons. So this isn't a video in the JNCIE SP series, unfortunately. I would love to, I'm going to be doing more on that during lunch and after work. This is a video, I actually took a sick day from work today. This is a video a video series. It's going to be a private video series for now, but the intent of this video series, so really good news. I actually took a new job that I'll be starting on April 22nd. So I'm really excited about that. Unfortunately, I'm not sure how much value the JNCIE SP will bring to that job. Yes, it is going to bring some level of value, but this is the highest level of exam, and it's for service provider. I think the company is going to be a company that makes supercomputers. So I think it's going to be more like data center stuff, more enterprise networking stuff. In the interview, I was asked about spanning tree, which is something I know a lot about through my studies in enterprise. My study here for service provider, yes, spanning tree was on it, but it is on it as part of layer 2 VPNs. So, but for me, I think just thinking about it, the most bank I'm going to give to my buck for just jumping on there, ready to go, bringing as much value as I can from day one is going to be network automation. So that is what this video series is going to be about. So I will share my screen. I've got a few things I want to go over in this introductory video. The first is, so now I'm creating two video series. I'm creating a video series on network automation, and I'm creating a video series on JNCIE SP. So you've got to understand context switching, what that is, how it can kill your productivity, how it can make your goals disappear, or at least your ability to achieve them. So this is all just in the concept of computer science, which is, of course, where a lot of these stem from. People learn about computer science, or they learn about human behavior, and they say, hey, like, we got to solve this if we want our computers to work properly. So yeah, I just want to read like a quick definition of what context switching is and how it can be a problem for some people, and what can be done to overcome it. So yeah, it looks like it's also called task switching. You can see there are people who can have difficulties with task switching, where focusing on one thing for a long time is easy, but if you want those people to focus on 10 things, each thing for 10 minutes, there's just going to be some things that they just haven't gotten to because they just couldn't pull their focus away from the one thing that was really interesting to them, and just there was no way for them to look at the things that were interesting to them, because this task switching psychology takes so much more from a person like that than it does from your average person. The average person can just switch, oh, that's interesting, oh, you know, you switch back and forth, but but for some people, and it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody with Parkinson's or on the autism spectrum, once they're into a task, you pop their bubble is popped, and they can't reshift their focus in a really easy way. And in fact, there's a lot of good research that this, in fact, is not just about abnormal people. The average person is far less able to multitask than what would ordinarily be considered. There's a lot of great research that says, yes, although people are capable of multitasking, when you multitask, any one particular task is done with less quality. So even though it's possible to do 10 things at once, for some people, you can't do 10 things at once and then giving them each your best effort. So, I mean, I want to say there's a lot of research for that. I'm actually not up to date on psychology, but yeah, this graph looks like it's going to be perfect here. So let's see. Yeah, let's read the power of sustained attention. Context switching can eat up 80% of your productive time. Focus is a muscle. So right there, you know, I disagree with that. Focus is obviously not a muscle. Focus is a word that, you know, a muscle is a muscle. You know, it's a focus definition. Yeah, so it's the center or interest of activity is what that word means. It's not a muscle, it's a concept. I understand that they're making an analogy. They're saying focus is like a muscle, but is focus a muscle? Does it behave exactly as a muscle does? We don't know. There's evidence that it does. There's probably evidence that it doesn't. But as far as a mental model we can use to improve our focus, let's go with it for now. And just like your quads and your biceps, it atrophies when you don't use it. Unfortunately, modern workspaces aren't designed for long periods of sustained attention. In fact, it's probably safe to say that the constant notifications and interruptions, fragmentation, and unspoken expectations of the workplace actively break down our ability to focus. So there, I would definitely agree. One of the most important things I've done in my life is I'm not on Facebook, I'm not on Twitter. You won't find me there unless I'm trying to market myself for something. All my phone, the reason I bought it is because it's got a mute button right on it that I can just push. So this is kind of how I modeled my life to kind of prop up my strength, which one of my big strengths is my ability to focus, but one of my big weaknesses is my ability to transition focus or have that bubble reform after it's been popped. But once that bubble is formed, that's a big strength of mine, is to really figure out the details and know more about something than anybody else knows. And while the immediate cost of context switching might feel small, the compounding impact on your focus is staggering. According to computer scientist and psychologist Gerald Weinberg, taking on additional tasks simultaneously can destroy up to 80% of your productive time. Here's how this looks in practice. Focusing on one task at a time is 100% of your productive time available. So it equals 100% of your productive time. Juggling two tasks at a time equals 40% of your productive time for each, and 20% lost to context switching. Of course, we're making some pretty big assumptions there. We're assuming that it takes 10%. First of all, we're assuming that 50% that total amount of your time for each task, we're making the assumption that that is the sum of the time it takes you to complete that task and the time it takes you to switch over to that task, and that there'll be a 5-to-1 ratio where for example, if it took you 5 minutes to do two tasks, 1 full minute of that 5 minutes you spend will be lost to just switching over to it, and you'll only get 4 minutes to work. Whereas if you didn't have that context switching time, you would get the full 5 minutes to work on it. So you can't assume that when you're doing two tasks at once and you have an hour, you can't assume that you get 30 minutes for each task. You have to make a deduction for the time it takes you to switch over to each task, and this is making the assumption that's going to take up 10% of your time. So for a half an hour, you're going to lose, so that's going to be 30 minutes times 0.01. So you're going to lose a full 3 minutes of your time, and you're only going to have 27 minutes to work on it if you work on two things at once. If you only work on one thing, you get the full 30 minutes. Juggling 3 tasks at a time equals 20% of your productive time for each, and 40% lost to context switching. So this is kind of still they're assumed figures, assumed math, so we don't know if that's true. If you lose 10%, some people might lose 1%, some people might lose 20%. But one thing I think can be generally agreed on is there's no case where you would lose none at all. I mean, just of course, moving your head from here to here is costing you a little bit of time. So the more time you can save in doing that, the more time you get overall to focus on your task. So that's just something I wanted to talk about as briefly as I am able to talk about it, just because this is a huge issue in time management and productivity. It's really something that's overlooked too. A lot of people expect you to multitask, which there's an important distinction to make too between multitasking and between doing multiple things. So we're talking about let's say I want to play baseball, I want to play basketball, and I want to play football. We're talking about trying to play all 3 of them at once, or in one practice, practicing my baseball, football, and basketball skills. So I dribble the ball, then I throw the football, then I swing the baseball bat. This is the argument here is that it's more beneficial for me to, let's say I practice 3 hours a day. The argument here is that it's more beneficial for me to have 1 hour devoted to each on their own than to have 3 hours devoted to doing all 3 and switching between the 3 of them. So I think is what they mean. I'm actually not sure about context switching. I have actually probably lost a bit more time to learning about that than I would have liked. So let's move on, and we're going to, as I said, the goal of this video, which is going to be private right now, I'll make it public later. Let's see here, what's my password even? I don't even know. Is to prepare me for this new job that I'm really happy I got, really excited about. So I want to, on day 1, make sure that I'm bringing the most value I can possibly bring. And yes, career-wise, for me to get hired again, if I have that JNCIE ESP, I'm good at any service provider for a really nice high-level position. But in a job like this, where it might not necessarily be service provider things, is that going to get me the best, have me do the best job I can possibly do on day 1? Maybe, maybe not. But as far as network automation is concerned, I definitely think there's no doubt that I can bring the most value by being as comfortable with network automation, Python basics, as I possibly can. Advanced esoteric networking knowledge isn't necessarily going to be as valuable as basic fundamental networking knowledge that can scale, that can be automated, that can be, because the one kind of beautiful thing about network automation too is it's not just automation. It's if a net tech needs me to do something at 2 a.m. and I don't want to get up at 2 a.m. and I don't want to waste his time too, having me get out of bed, get some water, whatever. I can just write him out a script during the day and say, hey dude, I respect your time, you respect my time, so why don't we just do this? So if you have this issue at 2 a.m., here's the script. So open it up, hit enter, resolves your issue, you're good. Doesn't resolve your issue, give me a call. So this kind of has those, you kind of have more to offer to the people you're working with and to the projects you are going when you study network automation versus studying esoteric kind of fringe aspects of network engineering. And those, of course, are going to be important to know because there are a lot of cases where you will get value for knowing those. But I think automation is definitely the best way to provide immediate value on day one. So I'm trying to kind of go through and pick out a good part of this book to read. This is the book that is going to be, I'm going to base this video series on. So it's Python for, actually this is not the book I wanted to use. Oops, not now. Yeah. So it's going to be Mastering Python. So Mastering Python Networking, your one-stop solution to using Python for network automation, programmability, and DevOps. So this I picked up because I feel like I really know these concepts. There's something I have used professionally, but when it comes to mastering them, this is what I want help with. So let's read this section about, well, okay, so we might want to read this whole part. Yeah, let's just read that whole part here. So, oh, this is why subscribe. So this is the forward. It looks like it didn't get highlighted, but yeah, let's read the forward. This book you are holding in your hand or are reading in your screen has a power that can be yours if you take time to study it. Much like Thor's hammer or Iron Man's suit, programming is a superpower that amplifies your existing knowledge and skill set. Many people feel or are told that they should learn programming and Python for their own sake. Programming skills are in demand, so you should be a programmer. This is probably good advice, but better advice would be to answer the question, how can you take your existing expertise and leap ahead of peers by automating and extending that experience with software skills? This book aims to do just that for network professionals. You'll learn Python in the context of network configuration, administration, monitoring, and more. If you are tired of logging in and typing a bunch of commands to configure your network at 2 a.m., just automate it to do it automatically at 2 a.m., Python is for you. If you need to be certain that the network configuration is solid and repeatable, Python is for you. If you need to monitor in real time what is happening on the network, you guessed it, Python is for you. So one thing this book is unfortunately not going to talk about, it's pretty clear, is the idea of social stigmatization and antagonistic attitudes towards change and new technologies. So kind of what I have faced in my professional career is if you bring up something like Python or something new and it's not something that people already know about, it's stigmatized. It's not an exciting culture where, hey, this can save us all this time, this can save us all this energy. Let's look into it. Let's dive into this. This is amazing. Let's figure it out. It's, oh, I don't know if that will work. Oh, this is not our standard. Oh, this is not approved by this standards agency that doesn't have anyone actually. They don't even have a director or anyone actually working for them anymore. So we can't do this because of this. So this book, unfortunately, is not going to explain that, which is kind of sad because I found that to be a real big issue when it comes to implementing improvements in how things are done. Improvement is not a word that can just be thrown out lightly. Lots of people will hear the word improvement and instantly think, I bet you that's not an improvement. That, here's this, why it's wrong. It's really rare and special to find an environment where people will say, what you're saying to me sounds amazing. How can it be implemented? Can you show me more about this? Please take the time to look into this more. This sounds like it's really valuable. And of course, it's understandable why environments wouldn't do that. Can you really have a coworker going off and working for 2 weeks on something that might not pan out? So that is a rare special environment. But unfortunately, it looks like this book is assuming that you're going to be working in that kind of unicorn environment that allows you to make improvements without having to overcome social status or even potentially stigmatization towards new technologies. You are probably in agreement that learning software skills can be applied to network engineering. After all, terms like software-defined networking, SDN, have been all the buzz in the last few years. But why Python? Maybe you should learn JavaScript or Go or some other language. Maybe you should just double down on Bash and shell scripting. Python is well suited for network engineering in 2 ways. First, as Eric will demonstrate throughout this book, there are many Python libraries, sometimes called packages, designed specifically on network engineering. A focused search over at pypy.org for the network topic. Ooh, this is interesting. Oh, can I not? Oh, yeah, I can. Sweet. Yeah, a bunch of stuff. Network tools, network topology, Python network. Yeah, lots of stuff. Turns up over 500 different libraries for network automation and monitoring. But again, we're not addressing the idea of social stigmatization. How are you going to tell your boss? How are you going to tell your coworkers that I want to use clonesocial.network on my, on their valuable production network? And this is kind of obviously not even a networking library. It looks like it's some random thing, but even something like, Python dash network 0.0.0, they're going to say, what is that? I don't want you using that on my network, assuming you're in the kind of environments I have been in. Like, this is assuming a unicorn, ideal world, perfect environment where you're not going to be ridiculed for wanting to improve the way things are done, or you're not going to be unquestioned in a manner that is unfair and allows you to give answers, or if you give those answers that are not going to be just tossed out or just not considered or just go over the head, or the only person you're even allowed to talk to them about them is somebody who is unable to relay your answers. So your answers basically go into a black void. One thing I can probably talk a little bit about on this example on this channel is, so in my experience, what I have seen a lot of people do, because they get into traps where I'm expected to dig a ditch, but I'm not allowed to use a shovel. So what do? I use the shovel, but I don't want to get punished for using the shovel, so I secretly use the shovel. And I've seen that a lot in production, and it's not necessarily a secret thing. It's more of approved shovel usage, even though you can't use the shovel, and everyone knows you can't use the shovel, and using the shovel is wrong. So what this does, in my opinion, is it just makes it so you have shovel users and you have non-shovel users at your ditch digging company. And the non-shovel users are the ones obeying the rules. They're the ones doing everything right. They're using their hands, they're kicking, they're doing whatever they can do to do what you want them to do. They're just not using a shovel because you told them they can't do that. Then you have the shovel users. They're digging a ditch with a shovel. So what happens to the shovel users? They dig better ditches. They're deeper, they're faster. Everything about what they do at work is better, but they use a shovel. You told them not to use a shovel. So what happens to these shovel diggers? Do they get fired? Do they get punished? No, they get rewarded. They get promoted. They go on to high-level jobs. They get appreciation rewards, but they're not allowed to say, well, I mean, they can say it, but they're not allowed to officially acknowledge in any way that they used a shovel. And if they tell anyone they used a shovel, they could get, there's always the opportunity for them to be in trouble for using the shovel. So it's a shovel-less environment where your only means of being successful is using a shovel. I personally have witnessed that. And the way I have seen people overcome that is by using a shovel. So there's a lot left to be desired already in this book. But I'm here mostly for the technical knowledge. It's just kind of upsetting for me to see, you know, so much assumed in a book like this about the kind of environment you'll be working with, and kind of leaving you so much on your own to decide, do I use the shovel? How can I justify using the shovel? Is the way I can call it something else besides a shovel and still use it, even though everyone would agree who's not in this environment that, yes, that is a shovel. Can I have a way to convince people in this particular environment, you don't want us using shovels, yes, but this shovel is 13 inches long, or this shovel is green. I thought all shovels were red. I'm not using a shovel. It's green. Shovels are red. Are you crazy? Of course I'm not using a shovel. I wish there would be a book that could speak more to that. So unfortunately this one won't, but let's continue reading. You are probably in agreement about learning software skills that can be applied to network engineering. After all, terms like, okay, I already read that part. So here we go. So yeah, I got sidetracked, kind of confirming what they were saying, and then went off into a tangent. With libraries such as Ansible, you can create complex network and server configurations declaratively by using simple configuration files. So already this book is kind of bothering me because it's assuming an environment that I think there's a low chance that you'll actually see. I think you're much more likely to see the kind of environment I described, where your job is to dig a ditch, but your job is to dig a ditch without using shovels. And if you bring up the idea of using shovels, if you start to use a shovel, you could lose your job, you could get passed up for a promotion. There's lots of really bad things that could happen to you. But if you don't use the shovel, you can dig the ditch. So the people who end up getting those promotions are the people who essentially can secretly use the shovel, or can convince those around them that they're not using a shovel, or can get implicit permission to use the shovel instead of explicit permission, which is, of course, explicitly there's permission not to use the shovel. Explicitly, it is stated you cannot use the shovel here. That is more what I see. So that's my first issue with this book. Second issue, you know, classic, I'll always bring up every time. What does declarative mean? I mean, I guess this is for mastering it for advanced levels, so they don't need to explain that. But me personally, I have seen the words declarative, imperative many times. They're advanced level topics. I need a refresher every time I see them because they're just not simple concepts. Using pexpect or Paramico, you'll be able to program against remote legacy scripts as if they had their own scripting API. If the gear you're configuring has an API, chances are you can use a purpose-built Python library to work with it. So clearly, Python is well suited for the job. Second, Python is special amongst programming languages. Python is what I call a full spectrum language. My definition of this term is that it is both a language that is incredibly easy to get started, print hello world anyone, and also very powerful. being the technology behind the incredible software such as YouTube.com. This is not normal. We have solid beginner languages for quickly building software. Visual Basic comes to mind here, so does MATLAB and other commercial languages. Yet, when these are pushed too far, they fall down badly. Can you imagine Linux, Firefox, or an intensive video game created with any of these? No way. At the other end of the spectrum, we also have very powerful languages such as C++, .NET, Java, and many others. C++ is, in fact, the language used to build some Linux kernel modules and large open source software such as Firefox to some degree. Yet these languages are not beginner friendly. You have to learn about pointers, compilers, linkers, headers, classes, accessibility, public or private, and so on just to get started. Python lives in both realms. On one hand, it is incredibly easy to be productive with just a few lines of code and simple programming concepts, assuming you're in a unicorn environment that even lets you install Python on your computer. I mean, let's be honest here, like in my first day on the job, my computer was locked down. I didn't even have permissions to do anything. Could I install Python? Heck no, I'd have to log in with admin privileges, which is installed on my laptop. Heck no, the only way I was able to get Python on there was we actually did have a software center list of approved applications. So luckily Python was already on there, but you know, in a lot of cases, you're gonna have to write an email or a letter to your boss or to an internal IT justifying why you need something as simple as basic as Python. You might even need to do that, why you need it for Notepad++. Like this book really assumes an environment that you would be very lucky to work in. So you're not going to be able to just pull up Python like you would in on your home network if you're working for somebody in a lockdown secure environment, as of course hopefully you are, because network security is a huge thing. So you don't necessarily want to be in an environment where just anybody can break things. Okay, so let's keep reading. On the other hand, it is increasingly the language of choice for some of the world's most significant software, such as that behind YouTube, Instagram, Reddit, and others. Microsoft chose Python as their language to implement the command line interface for Azure. Although you don't have to know or use Python to use their CLI, of course. So here's the deal. Programming is a superpower. It can take your network engineering expertise and launch it into the stratosphere, which is why I'm starting this private series right now, because this, you know, as I said, that's very exciting to me. If I'm sitting down on day one on the job, I want a superpower. Python is one of the world's fastest growing and most popular programming language. Additionally, Python has many highly polished libraries for working with networks in many facets. This book, Mastering Python Networking, 3rd edition, combines all of these and will change the way you think about networking. So for me, I already think that way about networking, but let's keep reading this part. So yeah, let's read about the introduction here. So in 2014, I taught the first Coding 101 workshop on Python and REST APIs for network engineers in the DevNet zone at Cisco Live. The room was full of prominent network engineers and architects. Many of them made their first API call in this workshop. Since then, I have been honored to work with network engineers from around the world who have decided to add coding to their skill set. IT and operations teams are changing. I believe the new normal will be network engineers and software developers working side by side in the same team. The scalability, complexity, and security that modern application deployments demand from the network require automation to make network management repeatable, reliable, and agile at scale. Network engineers are problem solvers with deep expertise. Adding Python, network automation, and API skills to the network engineering tool set creates a powerful combination. With these added layers, engineers can approach problems in new ways and tackle new types of challenges. Mastering Python networking, 3rd edition, is a valuable source for both network engineers who want to learn coding skills and for software engineers who want to take advantage of new programmable infrastructure opportunities. One of the questions I often hear from engineers is, where do I start? So my advice is start simple, look for challenges that your team faces, which are read-only, and focus on using automation to troubleshoot and gather information. So perfect, okay. So this book is gonna talk about what to do if you're not in that unicorn environment. Basically, you're looking for things that will take you a few hours to do, have literally no chance of causing any issues, and that benefit people in undeniable ways. If you can find that, and I guarantee you can find that, they're all over the place. There's no reason somebody won't let you work on it. And another thing you can do is put in extra hours. I mean, if you're serious about moving up and having a career, they won't let you do anything. Just put in an extra 3 hours after work, show them what you did. They're going to be amazed. Put that on your resume and get a new job and say goodbye. Because it's about what you do. It's about the experiences you have. So if you're not going to get that through the time you're paid for, you're going to have to pay for those experiences by working on them unpaid and using your own time to get that. Unfortunately, that's kind of the truth. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm working on this, which are read-only and focus on using automation to troubleshoot and gather information. You can then use automation to flow the information which is gathered into ticketing systems. Aha, there we go. Or chat applications. So one thing I saw is just a lot of people on the keyboard making tickets. Yeah, they can be automated. You're gonna, of course, run into difficulties because you don't know the decisions these people are making to make their tickets. So you're gonna need to talk to them and figure out, if it just is too esoteric or crazy, or they're just making things up off the top of their head, random, if they're writing Game of Thrones fiction novels in these tickets, like, yeah, you're not gonna be able to automate that, but, but I'm sure that there's something they would love to have off their plate. Or chat applications, and soon you can have started, oops. Oh, lost my spot. Oh, and it's completely gone. Yeah, I don't know where I was. This is kind of why I was, oh, okay, here it is. And soon you have started to build a workflow. This safe start read-only evolution helps teams build confidence with automation and familiarity with tools. So I am going to actually bookmark this because this is just absolutely, I think, essential. So let's see if yeah, show my notes. Aha, so yep, it shows up here. Let's see if I can add yeah. Add this to my highlights. Now, does that show up in 2 highlights or does that show up in 1? It shows up in 2. So can I, Okay, well, how do I get rid of this highlight then? There's no physical way for me to delete the highlight. Oh, it looks like there was, but it was like underneath. Oh, I see. It's just colored really weird. Okay. So let me go to this location. So, and then I will unhighlight. I'll just unhighlight everything. Okay, close. And now I'm going to highlight this. This I think is just essential. So read only and focus on automation to troubleshoot and gather information. You can then use automation to flow the information that is gathered into ticketing systems or chat applications, and soon you have started to build a workflow. This safe start read-only evolution helps build team confidence with automation and familiarity with tools. So couldn't have said it any better. If you're not in a unicorn environment, this is what you do. And even if you are in a unicorn environment, this is what you do. But I would argue that even that in a non-unicorn environment, even this would be difficult. But as I said, you still have options. At the beginning, focus on learning the core coding skills that will help you in every project, including Python coding and RESTful APIs, and on using tools like Git and GitHub to manage your source code and collaborate with others. Take the time to set up your development environment, which again assumes a unicorn environment because you're not going to have admin access to your PC in a lot of cases. So good luck setting up your development environment if you don't even have the ability to install a plugin on Notepad++. Try different code editors and tools such as Postman and curl for exploring APIs. Build a solid understanding of how to work with JSON and XML. Start exploring software development methodologies such as test-driven development, TDD, and the core principles of DevOps. Mastering Python Networking 3rd edition is a great resource for working on these skills because it helps you learn these topics within the context of networking. The book starts with using Python for basic network device interactions using CLI and API, then moves up the stack with a general purpose automation framework, all from the perspective of network engineers. Along the way, Eric provides Python examples on network security, monitoring, and also constructing your own API with the Flask framework. Eric also introduces networking in the cloud with both AWS and Azure, as well as with common DevOps tools such as Git, Jenkins, and TDD. Throughout the book, Eric explains topic using a pragmatic, practitioner-based approach that helps you bring these concepts into your work. DevOps and cloud are transforming our industry. Development, operations, security, and networking teams are connecting in new ways with shared goals and responsibilities to deliver business outcomes. Network engineers who learn software skills will help define this transformation. So find your first project and work on learning these skills in the scope of that project. Pick something you do every day you want to repeat reliably and try to automate it. Get hands-on and write code early and often. Build or find a development lab where you can work. The more you can experiment, the faster you will learn. The innovations that are going to be created over the next 5 years by network engineers and software engineers working together are going to be game-changing, which is why I'm so excited about this new job I got. I was actually interviewed by 3 software engineers, high-level advanced software engineers, for a senior network engineering role that I will be working on starting May 22nd. Or sorry, May 25th. Oh man, I'm like really bad with saying dates out loud. Like I have it all marked on my calendar. I know on May 11th I need to offer my resignation, and I know on the 25th of May is when I start the job, regardless of what I say. So yeah, so as your first step, don't forget to celebrate when you get your first 200 okay, which I'm a little bit upset about because this is mastering it. So we should have gotten our first API response by now. I still think this is going to be a good book. So this book is ideal for IT professionals and operations engineers who already manage groups of network devices and would like to expand their knowledge on using Python and other tools to overcome network challenges. Basic knowledge of networking and Python is recommended. So one of the things I've been working on that I would like to get working before I start this new job, because it would just like, it would be just insane if this worked. So it's called a EEM for Cisco, and I think I'm going to be working with Cisco a lot. Unfortunately, you can't really do this for Juniper, but all it does is it pings its default gateway every 5 seconds. So let's say something happens, the link goes down. It can't ping its default gateway. So what does it do then? It does a copy start run. So hopefully, whenever any engineer makes a change, hopefully you've got automation that saves the stop. You're doing that right. If you're not doing that, that's a big problem, and that needs to be done. So if that is happening properly, that's always going to be a good backup. So if you're on the device, you cut off your legs, you can't get in anymore because you made a switchboard trunking error, you shut down the link by accident, you did all sorts of number of things that you could do wrong on that device. It can't ping its default gateway anymore. And if it can't ping its default gateway anymore, you can't get in anymore. So it's going to load that startup config into the running config and undo your change, and you're back in. And of course, if you delete your user account, there's any number of things you can do that are bad that will prevent that. But this will lessen your failure of cutting off your legs in a number of cases. So, but unfortunately, I'm having trouble getting it to work in GNS3. I'm wondering if it'll work in live gear. I have the applet, so EEM applet. I think it might be in my Google Drive saved somewhere. No, it's not. I mean, it's just a few lines. It's really easy. I can figure it out. I really need to have it saved in my Google Drive or something, so I can just pull it up and have it all ready to go. But especially before this test, yeah, that's going to be the most important thing. So there's two applets that I'm going to kind of stash away for day one on this job, because day one I can bring a lot of value by having these two applets installed. So let's go drive, and hopefully, part of the reasons I'm so excited about this job is because this will be a unicorn environment. In my current job, I bring it up, and it doesn't get within, it doesn't get any farther than 5 feet from where I talk about it. There have been exceptions to this rule. I have been really great management that have advocated for my ideas, but that is the exception to the rule, unfortunately. So let's see here. But, if I am in a situation where my ideas are really accepted and really respected and I don't have anything to offer, that's a big problem. So that's the situation I definitely want to avoid. So let's make a new folder. We're gonna name it after this book. So this book is called I don't know what the book is called. It's called Mastering Python Networking. So, here it is. So let's make a new folder, a new doc. We're going to call it Essential Cisco EEM applets. Or let's just call it Cisco EEM applets. And then let's say preventing switch port trunking errors. We'll put that in underline. Oops. There we go. All right, so now let's find that applet. I posted it on a David Bumble video. So I'm gonna find that video. And that's how I'm going to, so David Bumble, EEM. There we go. It's fine. And he loved my comment, which is amazing. Oh, it might not have been on this video though. Maybe I left it as a reply. No, I think unfortunately I'm gonna have to go into my account and look at all the comments I left. That's the only way I'm gonna be able to find it. I mean, I know what it is. I can recreate it, but there's kind of no reason for me to do that. So let's find my comments. So subscription, home, let's see here, playlist, channels, discussion. I just want to see the comments that I've left. So let's do a Google for that. Let's do a Google. YouTube, see comments you made. So is there a way I can see a list of all my YouTube comments? Remember there used to be videos history tab. So history, comments on video history. So we got to find history somehow. I don't see history anywhere. Maybe settings. Is history on this page? History is not on that page anywhere. Maybe it's an advanced setting. Here it is. Here it is. History. So, so we don't want the watch history. We want the comments history. So it's going to be a while ago. Aha! Found it. Oh my God. So yeah, this is really assuring to me because yeah, this is really essential. And one thing that might jump out to somebody who's an expert in this is, you know, why do you have your regular expression set up like that? Well, yeah, you can have a 1-9. You can do it a bunch of other ways, but you know, it doesn't matter either way. You get these 3 freaking lines on all of your Cisco devices. You want to know how many network outages you're going to have a year? Maybe 1, maybe 2. Don't have them on there. You're going to have a network outage a week, network outage a month. You want that? So you probably don't want that. So this is what you apply to the device. It's not a workaround. It's not a special technique. It's not a unapproved configuration. It's not something that needs to get reviewed by anyone else. like people wear pants. People wear pants and underwear. This is the pants and underwear on a Cisco device. There's nothing controversial about including it on the device. There's only something controversial about not including it on the device. And if you have an environment where they tell you there's an issue with you applying this to the equipment, you're in the ditch digging with no shovel environment. And you need to be careful how you handle that, because you are going to have to use a shovel. There's no question that if you're telling me I can't use a shovel and you want me to dig a ditch, I have to find a way to use a shovel. The problem is not using a shovel. The problem is you. And I need to find a way to solve the problem of you creating a toxic environment and culture. So there are many ways you can do that. A few ways I already kind of discussed. One of the things you can do here is you can use a tool called Autohotkey, and you can set up this kind of configuration on your own local PC. And Autohotkey is a portable thing, so you're not going to be configuring other gear. You're not going to be using a shovel. So you will be using a shovel, but you won't. But you'll be using a red shovel. And how can a red shovel be a shovel? I mean, shovels are green, right? So that's a way you can work without exposing yourself to the possibility of either being docked, written up, or fired. Okay, so let's save this. So I'm really happy I have this. I'll make another title. So persistent, resilient remote management, resilient remote management. There's another term I think is better. What is it? Cut off legs regeneration. So cut off legs regeneration. This is a huge thing if it's possible to do, because I guarantee you will cut off your legs. It will be awful. So being able to grow new legs is a game changer. It's basically being able to use a shovel. So hopefully the formatting will paste. Aha, I will. So hopefully that will persist. Yes. There we go. So now we've got our formatting here. Just need to get rid of the underline. And yeah, so I'll go back and fill this in with what that script was. It wasn't working in GNS, but on May 22nd, if I have a device, installed, I have a tech on site, I can say, hey man, like, I'm going to try this, or just try it. And then if it doesn't work, the tech's got like me on a console session, I can just try it. Console session, oops, didn't work, roll it back. Or if I got a console server hooked up to the device and it's not running live traffic yet, I can just try it. And if it works, we're going to be able to restore any remote connections to a device instantly, automatically. That will be something that is possible. Because it was kind of funny, I was looking at SpaceX job applications. Not that I can work at SpaceX. I don't have 5 PhDs with all a perfect score on each. And, I didn't invent whatever latest, mathematical concept there is out there. So yeah, it's not going to happen, but of course I'm curious about what they're looking for and what is considered valuable to them. So they're working on the Constellation Space Network, which I'm very excited about. I think that's just amazing. I wish I knew more about it, but that's one of my biggest things that gets me excited about the future is the possibility of global good internet for everyone. Like that might be a game changer. Of course, we're going to have the problems we have using propaganda to persuade people to commit malicious deeds. Yes, that'll be even more of an issue, but personally, I think the internet has been a positive thing in my life. It's how I work. It's how, in light of the COVID thing, it's how I play. I talk to friends on video conferencing. So to have it be available worldwide for everyone is something I'm really excited about. But where this is going is one of the things they were looking for was a network architect to design protocols for their satellites, because they're just going to design their own custom protocols. They might not necessarily use ISIS, BGP. They're a first principles company. So yeah, like if it makes sense to use BGP, it makes sense to ISIS, yeah, we're going to do that. But let's say that BGP or ISIS has something to it that isn't really what we need. Can we design our own networking protocol from scratch? Of course we can. How did ISIS get designed? How did BGP get designed? That's what we're going to do, because we want to save money. We want things to work in the best way they can possibly work. So as long as there's nothing in the physical world, we're not violating any laws of physics or anything, of course we can do that. There's no reason we can't do that. So that's kind of a tangent. Of course, there are reasons. You might not have the time for it. You might not have the money to hire somebody who can do that for you. That person might not even exist. So, but of course, yeah, what I was getting at is I was thinking, well, if you lose access to a satellite, you cut off your own legs to a satellite, that's going to be the worst thing I could imagine. Now there's this hunk of garbage floating out in space and there's no way of recovering it. So you have to have resilient remote management baked into it. It's impossible to, you can't have something up there where it's possible for you to lose management to it. And it kind of makes me wonder how like the Voyager satellite and all that, but I think, just off the top of my head, knowing nothing about it, I would think that it's just not complicated enough to really have that many really serious fatal flaws. And the people working on it are competent enough to where even if they did, they wouldn't in a million years make that kind of mistake. But yeah, so that's kind of where the inspiration for this came from, just thinking of scenarios where you absolutely could not lose access to the device. And that scenario being SpaceX Constellation satellite network. So yeah, it's just kind of an interesting, fun thing that I think inspired me to think about this. And unfortunately, it's not something that works in GNS, but I would love to try it on a real device because I think it could work. So let me just do event manager, applet, and then I forget what I named it. I think it was like management restore. Yeah, management restore or management recovery. Yeah, management recovery. I think I like that better. So, oh yeah, and then it was actually very, very complicated. because it required a tracking statement. It required an SLA probe. It required logging. And then you had to check logs. If you see a certain statement, which you can make, you can make that statement a custom statement. Copy, start, run. So yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. I'll probably go on GNS as part of this series to learn network automation and see if I can get at least what I thought would work up there, because it was pretty much working. But yeah, let's continue to work through this book. So hopefully there's a way I can get to what I was reading before. As I said, I'm kind of suspicious about Kindle. I think a physical book does have advantages over a electronic book, and mainly that's just because it's just so easy to lose your spot in an electronic book. It's like, where was I even? I mean, I could mark a location, but well, actually, since I highlighted something, I can go there. But I think, oops, can I not go? Oh, I can go to location right here. Yeah. Perfect. Okay, so I'd like to get into the dirty details and actually do some coding, but you know, reading the preface and all that is not going to get me there. So I will read how to get the most out of the book. So to get the most out of this book, some basic hands-on network operation knowledge and Python knowledge is recommended. Most of the chapters can be read in any order, with the exceptions of chapters 4 and 5, which should be read in sequence. Besides the basic software and hardware tools introduced at the beginning of the book, new tools relevant to each chapters will be introduced in the respective chapters. It is highly recommended to follow and practice the examples shown in your own network lab. So I can make a second lab too. There's no problem with that. Conventions used, we don't need to, I'm sure they're self-apparent. We can go back and reference that if we need to. So this looks like it's chapter 1. Might as well just read that just to get, yeah, we can read all this. I mean, this is chapter 1, so I'll just read most of the book out loud. Yeah, this is all, you know, I'm studying for my JNCI ESP, so like none of this is going to be new to me, but it's always nice to, I think, to make sure you know the fundamentals and the basics and have those fresh in your mind. There's really nothing wrong about having the basic fundamentals and basics always being repeated and apparent and foremost. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to, I'm going to mark this location. So I'm not sure how I can do that. Toggle bookmark, view settings, go to menu. So let's see my notes and marks. Okay. So I think I just need to toggle a bookmark. Yeah. So now this location is marked. So I can go to the location or I can delete it. So that's going to be the end of this video. Unfortunately, I need to take a quick break. I might start another one where we read this shortly. Yeah, hopefully, I mean, my goal is to basically read as much or all of this book, maybe by the end of this weekend, because I really, this new job, I'm really excited about, really happy to have it. But I've got almost a full month before I start. So I start on the 25th, and I want to use that month to the fullest and make sure my first day of the job is is as valuable as I can make it. So thanks for watching.